Everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I gotta tell you, I really like the story we're about to cover right now. Number one, I'm a big fan of activism. I like it when people get out there and grab attention, especially when the cause is one that really needs to be hammered home, and people take advantage of the current political environment, as Jeffrey Epstein is all over the headlines. All over the headlines. You can't go to any media outlet now and now not just get a little bit. Now, number two, as you guys know, I do all my own graphics, Photoshop, etc., etc. So when there's good Photoshop out there, I'm a big fan. And what you are looking at are not Photoshop composites, although they're done very well. Whoever had these printed up took their time and really did an amazing job here. And we have somebody that turned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood into Once Upon a Time in Pedowood with Roman Polanski, and behind me, if you can't see it, guys, it's actually Woody Allen as well. So Epstein, Woody Allen, Polanski, and Quentin Tarantino has defended Polanski's actions in the past, although he's kind of backtracked on that. We're going to cover all of that. Now, on top of this story, the New York Post did a story about how Tarantino's time is up. This movie was awful. How dare he? I think the total opposite. When saw it yesterday, I thought it was great. I thought it was actually one of his morally superior films, believe it or not. And really, I think this author of the New York Post article got it completely wrong. There will be full spoilers. So when we get to that section, I am warning you right now, full spoilers on the film. So check it out right here. Tarantino billboards hijacked in L.A. to slam Epstein, Polanski, and Pedowood. And if you look down, it's not just there. You have it right here as well. Just really awesome stuff. I mean, if you've ever been to Hollywood, L.A., this type of advertisement is everywhere. It's like the same in New York City as well. In the boroughs, you can't get away from it. So let's see what we got here. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio no longer appear on several ads in Hollywood for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, as a conservative street artist has swapped their images with those of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and film director Roman Polanski. The giant billboard at Pico and La Cienega, I'm going to say it wrong, La Cienega, has been rented by Sony to advertise the Quentin Tarantino movie that opened Thursday night. But Friday morning, not only the photos of the actors had been altered, but also the film's title, which now reads Once a Time in Pedowood. The artist behind the alterations goes by the name Sabo. I'm going to have to follow Sabo on Twitter. And says that the faux ads are meant to insult the entertainment industry for embracing Polanski, who pled guilty to sex with a minor 4 decades ago, and to a lesser extent Epstein, who was arrested on July 6th for sex trafficking of minors. He also noted the backdrop of the movie is in the 1969 Charles Manson murders, where the most high-profile victim was Sharon Tate, the actress who was married to Polanski at the time. And let's not forget that Manson himself was a pedophile, at least on one occasion with a 14-year-old girl that we know about. Epstein wasn't as well known among the public as Polanski until his recent arrest, but in Hollywood, he had a reputation for throwing lavish parties, one in 2010, for example, where guests included Katie Couric, Charlie Rose, Chelsea Handler, and George Stephanopoulos. We've covered all of this. Yes, Hollywood is deeply embedded with Epstein as well. The possibility of Weinstein traveling with him and Clinton is also a very, very real one. I've done past videos at WRC on that. Beyond the billboard, there are ads at numerous bus stops, some of benches, and others behind glass. Insiders say a street crew worked through the night to get the phony ads in place before the sun rose on Friday. Awesome job, guys. Killer job. One bench ad uses an image of Woody Allen instead of Polanski, as Allen was accused of abusing his adoptive daughter by Dylan Farrow when she was 7. I felt they should all share a billboard to highlight a decades-old problem that has plagued Hollywood for decades, the abuse of children. Great job. All right, so that's the first half of this. And now, get ready for some spoilers. Because I went and saw the premiere of this yesterday. It was a big surprise. It's actually a fantasy film. You know, Rick Dalton is not a real person. Cliff Booth is not a real person. These are archetypes set in a very real type scenario. But as we know from past movies like Inglourious Bastards, etc., even if they are, set in those areas, it doesn't mean that they're going to be historically accurate. And I think he did a damn good job with this one. So let's read through it. And I'm gonna piece this up, guys, because I was really upset with this review. Quentin Tarantino's new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, is a love letter to the film industry's days of yore. The late 60s, to be exact. Men were men. Female actors were starlets. And the words "Me Too" had yet to be hashtagged. I want to vomit just from the opening paragraph, but we're gonna go to the second paragraph before we refute everything she says in this one. It shouldn't come as a huge surprise that a guy who partnered with producer Harvey Weinstein up until the latter's shattering downfall would feel a bit nostalgic about the good old retro days in the film biz. But just like Harvey, Tarantino and his overtoire are things that should now move quietly into the bye-bye club. Now, I'm not defending his relationship with Weinstein or Weinstein Pictures. In fact, look, there's allegations against Tarantino. I don't like his foot fetish stuff. I think it's weird, but as far as I know, he is not a pedophile. And in this, let's just start off right away with the female actors were starlets. There's actually a specific point in the film where Rick Dalton is conversing with a young child actress, and she corrects him and says that she wants to be an actor. And in fact, throughout the entire picture, she's the one that takes her job the most professionally serious. And Dalton asks her how old she was, if she's 12, and she ends up being 8 years old. But bottom line, she's actually portrayed as the most professional actor in Hollywood. And this movie is truly about, let me explain this, the cult of Hollywood. Not the occult aspects of Hollywood, but the cult of Hollywood and how people are chasing fame and what effects it has on them. That intertwined with the actual craft of direction and acting as an art form instead of just trying to be an archetype or a superstar or a leading person. That's what I got out of the film. So all this stuff about, this is the boys' club and somehow it was so masculine. The main character, Rick Dalton, and I guess you could argue both Rick and Brad Pitt share about the same amount of screen time. I think it would be tough to say that one was a supporting actor. They should really both get lead actors in a film that was almost 3 hours. But they both have their faults. For instance, I'll go into Cliff Booth maybe a little later, but Dalton is an alcoholic. From the very get-go, you find out that he's an alcoholic. He's beholden to his fame. He feels like a failure, a washout, and that he's going off into pasture. And kind of through that whole process, he finds hope and he finds a new path in his craft where he actually becomes an actor and cares more about his performance rather than being a Rick Dalton type character. Okay? So let's go. Let's keep going through here. There was a time and a place for Tarantino, who gave us his share of strong female characters. So now everything has to be a strong female character. Again, I'm not against those things, but the idea that we can't have different forms of entertainment is absurd. Uma Thurman's Beatrix Kiddo in Kill Bill. Pam Grier's fierce Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown was crap, by the way. I hated Jackie Brown. And it's not because, it had a woman main character. I thought it fell very, very short for me. It was not that, and Death Proof, just not my thing. I know that's another strong women picture. Love the Kill Bill series. In fact, I like Kill Bill 2 more than I like Kill Bill 1 because of the dialogue. I think it's excellent. But never strayed far from his ergo to exploit in his films. They're exploitation films. Fetishizing the N-word, which he doesn't use at all in this new picture, by the way, and I don't really think that's a valid argument in the first place, and relishing the sadistic treatment of women. Oh, come on. Look no further than Jennifer Jason Leigh's Daisy Dominique taking a truly stupendous number of punches in the face, and then much worse, over a 3-hour span of The Hateful Eight. I mean, again, if you want to talk about a powerful woman, she's kind of one of them. So you can't really have it both ways. I feel like she's portrayed pretty rough in that film. Tarantino's early movies were taut and sharp and shocking. The stuck in the middle with you torture scene in Reservoir Dogs, the banter and brutal killings done by John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson's Hitmen in Pulp Fiction, those flicks were endlessly quotable and addictively over the top, but in the end, made you feel as though you'd spent a couple of hours with a film geek who rarely got out of the video store, which is where the director used to work. Let me stop you there. Those films were very influential in my life. I went and saw Pulp Fiction in the theaters and then subsequently saw Reservoir Dogs, and I loved both of them. And at the time didn't know that he had written True Romance, which is also an excellent picture, and Natural Born Killers, another excellent picture on society. And yes, they absolutely have their over-the-top kind of den of geek feel, but that's not how I walked out of any of those pictures. How did I walked out thinking about them and thinking about their messages and why I enjoyed them, enjoyed the dialogue, the storytelling, the camera aspects, the craft of filmmaking, which I very much love to this day. You know, I want to make some more documentary films out there. I would never be opposed if the right kind of feature came up to do that as well as an art form. You know, I got a really good friend who's been the AD, assistant director, on some very big pictures lately. He did You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix, which is about a vigilante who takes down a high-level pedophile ring with a ball-peen hammer. I'd encourage people to go check that out. He also was the AD on The Old Man and the Gun with Robert Redford. And actually, we were talking today, and he is also the AD on the new Mr. Rogers picture with Tom Hanks that people are raving about. So, you know, that's another great art form, and I can respect that. Tarantino worshippers and cinephiles will gush over his new movie's gorgeous depiction of old Hollywood, its twisty conclusion, and Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's dedicated leathery performances as, respectively, an actor and his faithful stuntman hanging out in the days leading up to the Manson family murders. But anyone who dared to ask why Roman Polanski's actress wife Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie, the ostensible heart of the film, is reduced to an almost wordless entity was summarily dismissed. And this was asked to him. I just reject your hypothesis, Tarantino growled at the reporter, who asked as much of the Cannes Film Festival where the movie premiered. First of all, let's talk about something here. Margot Robbie in this and Sharon Tate, and you know, he talks about people, or they talk about people gushing over Tarantino. I'm certainly not gushing. I think I don't know, think it was his top film, but it was very good, and it was better than A Hateful Eight. And as far as Robbie and Sharon Tate is kind of, even though she doesn't talk a lot, is kind of portrayed as a woman of power. As although Polanski's in love with her, she still hangs out on a regular basis with her previous lover, who's now like a group friend. So obviously she's the centerpiece of those. And what she's really looking for is fame and acceptance. And that's, you know, overtly shown by her enjoyment of watching her own film in a movie theater, which she gets in for free after she's told she's an actress, gets a little more attention, gets to take a picture there, etc., etc., and then her joy as the audience claps and laughs at her performance. So I would disagree with that too. Just because she didn't have a lot of lines doesn't make her a weak character in the film at all. That's interesting because I reject some of Tarantino's hypothesis. This is about the only point of this I can get down with. And it's another reason that we started with the Billboard Activism, including the one about Polanski's innocence regarding the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl. Look, she was down with it. He didn't rape a 13-year-old. It was statutory rape, all right? She wanted to have it. Tarantino said in a 2003 interview with Howard Stern, for which he was eventually shamed into apologizing. And that's true. I watched that. And Tarantino has said some other things that I think are absolutely deplorable, and he should be held to account for that, okay? No doubt about it. I also question his having Thurman do her own stunt driving in Kill Bill, during which she crashed and hurt herself, and his notion that dangerously strangling Diane Kruger on the set of Inglourious Basterds was the only way to get genuine reaction shot from her. Also, that using the N-word made him edgy. So now they bring up the N-word again, blah, blah, blah. And again, I thought it was used really well in Pulp Fiction in 1994. I don't know that you could get away with it now. I know that the gratuitous use of it in Django Unchained turned some people off, but who's the hero of that? It's a slave who becomes the master, you know, who becomes the cowboy, who becomes the hero. So I don't know if I can get down with that. We can argue about the stunts and the driving. Listen, driving in this film is huge, by the way, especially the first half of the film. It kind of helps tell the story and bring the narrative through, driving through the Hollywood Hills. As a critic, I'm not immune to the charms of Tarantino's cinematic grandiosity. I swooned over Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained as near masterpieces in spite of their faults. But The Hateful Eight, his last movie with Weinstein, was a come down and a ridiculously long wallow into the specter of 70mm film with little regard for an audience's patience or tolerance for grim violence. And Once Upon a Time makes a different low for the director. It's kind of pointless. I would disagree. Again, I really felt like this was a buddy comedy fantasy about the cult of Hollywood and a lot of redemption story in here throughout. And it was really, I enjoyed the movie. I disagree full board with this article, this SJW nonsense. In a world where we have an increasing number of heroic females, again, she's mad that it wasn't heroic enough with the women characters, especially in films written and directed by actual women. How dare he be a man and make a movie? It may be a game for the male auteurs who create supposedly strong women on camera and denigrate them from behind it. In 2019, we don't need that type of guy anymore. Especially one who thinks silencing Sharon Tate for most of the film is somehow a fitting homage. Once upon a time in Hollywood, maybe, but not now. Sorry guys, I can't get down with it. I know this video was a little different. I want to remind everybody that we started it off actually with the activism of the billboards with Polanski and Epstein all over LA and on these things. Great activism, great work. I'm making 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos a day. If you'd enjoyed this one, if you're new to it, please subscribe. Join the Burmese Brigade. Share this. Thumbs it up. Throw it on Reddit. Put it on Facebook and all that good stuff. And I also got a GoFundMe. This is how we're doing it. I don't make false promises. I can't make Skype time. I don't have a subscribe star. I'm not on Patreon. I'm trying to make real content, over 30 videos a week covering real issues that aren't about left or right. They're about right and wrong. So if you can support me, I appreciate it. If not, that's cool too. I still love you all, and I'll see you on the flip side.